is we need to dump the NAND. The way that we'll do that is by soldering the NAND connections to the J1D2 and J2B1 sockets. So there's the J1B2, J1D2, excuse me. And then here is the other one. I will throw up an image of the Pinout Diagram. I use a Nandex, which is a Team Executor product, in order to do this. There are LPT cables and stuff you can make, but I'm telling you, if you want ease of use and support from everybody on the internet, the Team Executor Nandex or the JR Programmer, which is just their upgraded version, and the pinouts that they use are ubiquitous across the internet. So next, I'm going to solder those on, and we'll continue from there. All right, preparing of the NAND connections in order to actually do the soldering, you're going to want a fiberglass scratch pin. These can be had pretty cheap online, $7-8 at Radio Shack even. What this does is it removes the top layer or coating on the board that will prevent you from being able to make a good connection. So what I'm just going to do is pretty gently rub this back and forth across the connectors here where we're going to be doing the soldering for the NAND header. And again, this is something that is necessary. It is not an optional step. Don't go to try to solder without doing this sort of thing. It's all part of the proper soldering process. So here's the other, let's see, NAND header. And the ones that we're going to use here are kind of a couple over. That's why I'm not doing the whole set of pins. Make sure you're using flux, you're doing your solder correctly. There's tons of video out here on YouTube about how to solder. Watch them, pay attention, otherwise you will burn the shit out of your Xbox and you will not end up with a cool, awesome JTAG. You will end up with a useless hunk of crap that you burned. Alright, I'm going to do the soldering next. Alright, managed to get a decent camera angle on this, so I think I will try to show you guys the soldering. I am going to apply liberally some flux here to the area that we're going to be soldering to. That's actually like SMD rework flux. It's not the most ideal for this circumstance, but it's what I have on hand because my son squirted out the rest of my flux on the floor. So this is soldering iron, and I'm using a slightly wedged shape soldering iron tip. It's not completely fine, and it allows me to get down in there and actually apply the soldering iron a little more. I'll give you a diagram in the comments and on screen here of where exactly these are going. Tin my iron a little bit. Should have done that before I started. And how they're going to be wired up to the connector. So my point, or the point of my process right now is just to get a little bit of solder flowed onto each one of these spots. So that later, when I come back with the connectors that I'm going to make, everything will just stick nice and easy to it. So now that I've got that done, and I'm stopping with those because those are the only ones that we're going to solder to, I'm just going to clean it up with a cotton pad. You can get these in the dollar store, like Family Dollar or whatever. A whole package of a ton of them for $1. And they work really good for this. Alright, so you can see now I've got my spots with a bit of solder on each of them ready to be soldered to. One of the nice things about the Nandex cable is if you look at the head of it here, it's actually done in order of how you're going to do it. And you can kind of learn those ways. So black is my first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through the connectors that you're going to do. So the very first connector that we're going to plug in, or going to hook up, is to this one in the corner here. It's the black one, and that's pin position number 1. So what I'm going to do is just touch the soldering iron to that. And now we've got a nice little, see, that's why we pre-tin it. So that's all connected nicely. So then connection number 2 is brown wire. And again, guys, use your reference image. Don't be using my video for this. That would be kind of silly. I'm gonna pull this whole bit back this way while I do that. So there's number 2. 3 is the red in this third position right here. And there's 3. 4 is the orange. Next one over here like so. And the last one, yellow, in the 5th position, is actually ground. So if it's like crazy and you really don't think you can get the last one in there or whatever, if you can ground it off to the AV port or something else, it'll still work because it's just ground. So there's that one connected. So there's all of those in that section connected. I'm going to move the camera to get another look at this pin header, which is where we got 2 more connections to make, and we'll show wiring those up. Alright, so I've already used my fiberglass scratch pin and desurfaced this area a little bit. These 2 pins are 1, 2, and then it's the third one's over, top and bottom there. So I'm just going to apply a little flux like we did before. And then I'm going to tin each of these just like we did the other ones. See, that's cold solder a little bit. I've never known it to affect for my purposes, but it bugs some people when the solder doesn't turn out shiny. I don't know. As long as you don't burn the board, don't go overboard trying to get it shiny. Wipe it up here. That probably has something to do with the not super specifically designed for it flux that I'm using. So there's my 2 spots that I'm going to be soldering to. These are the last 2 wires off of the thing, the blue and the green. I like to do number 6, the green one first, so I can reach it from the top side. So that's what we'll do here. So again, I'll just touch a little bit. And there's that connected. And then the blue one here, we'll just do the same thing. Just touch the soldering iron to it just to get it moving. And there's 7. So now all of our connections are made to our NAND pin header so that we can read the NAND. I'll set up for it and walk you guys through dumping the NAND multiple times, comparing it, verifying that it's exploitable and all that here next. Alright, so now I've got my NAND X plugged in via USB to my computer. I've got it plugged in via the only connector that fits into the pin headers that we soldered. And I've got the power connected to the motherboard. Power only. I have not even connected the RF board, not turning it on. We just want the power connected and the power plugged in because that's going to provide power to the chips so that we can read it. Then we're going to come over to JRunner and we're actually going to read the NAND, and I'll do that from a screenshot.
So what you can see here is that I have the number of reads indicated as 2 in the upper left here, number of reads, 2 NANDs. Then we're going to hit the Read NAND button. First it's going to get our config, and then it's going to start reading the NAND. So there's our config, which would tell us what kind of motherboard we have. It also immediately tells us our CB, which we know is exploitable now. And that's progress bar is what is telling us that we are in fact progressing through reading the NAND. So I'm probably going to put a little high speed here to take us through that. Okay, I'm slowing it down here for just a second to show you that if you click that Show Output folder here, you're going to get the folder where it's storing the NAND dump. And it's in progress right now, so the file's not completed. But once it completes, it would be a good idea to take both of the NAND files and make a copy of them and put them in a location that is not accessible to JRunner, just to make absolutely sure you've got a good backup copy of your NANDs somewhere that it can't get to. So now that we're about to finish our first dump, what you're going to see here is that it will start immediately a second, and that's because we've told it to do 2 dumps. So there's the first NAND dump completed, and immediately it started reading for the next, and you can see it's immediately started reading because we told it to do number 2, and it's going to progress through this. So this is sped up, it's just doing the second dump. I wanted to make sure that was notated. I'm clicking around a little bit and looking at the different details that you can see now that we have a NAND dump. So now that it's slowing down, it's nearing the completion of the second dump. What we want to see here is after the second dump completes, it's going to do comparing the NANDs, and we want to see it say right here, critically important, NANDs are the same. If your NANDs are not the same, do not proceed. Double check your soldering and start over and do your dumps again. Do not proceed unless you have 2 good matching dumps. So from here, what I'm going to show you real quick is how to just copy what's in the working folder over to another folder that JRunner doesn't have access, just to again make sure that we've got a good copy of the NAND somewhere that we can't lose it.
Okay, coming back to the real world here too, we're about to finish up our second NAND read. And this is the big critical part, and we'll show you on the computer as well. But we want to compare, NANDs are the same, and we want that. If we don't have 2 identical NAND dumps, we stop, we review what we've done because we're doing something wrong. If you do not have NANDs are the same, 2 identical NAND dumps, do not continue. So what I'm going to do now here on this side, I haven't touched anything. All I'm going to do is unplug, and then I'm going to disconnect here.